Have you ever wondered what it takes for a homeschooling family to thrive? Today we're diving into it. Flexibility, intentionality, and the courage to learn differently. Research shows homeschooling is growing across America, and more parents are discovering that when learning fits the child, confidence blooms. In this episode, we talk about the parent who feels not qualified, flexibility that brings freedom, blending academics into everyday life, and how learning together builds connection. We'll also dig into the role of play, what it can look like in a homeschool setting, and how play helps you keep joy right at the center of it all, whether or not you are homeschooling. Listen in to find insight and encouragement for anyone helping a child to learn. Does your child have a speech-language delay and you really want them to talk? Do difficult behaviors derail home life and you know the frustration is a communication struggle? Does your child see a speech therapist and you wonder, what do they do and how can I help? If these or similar questions are in your mind, this podcast is for you. Hello, my name is Dina Lynn Rosenbusch. I am a speech-language pathologist that has worked with children from birth to 21 for 3 decades. And in my classrooms, I see you wanting to connect with the heart of your child, but their speech and language skills create a barrier. So if you have a kiddo that has difficult behaviors, needs to expand their language or learn to say speech sounds, and maybe even receives speech therapy, stay tuned, because in this podcast, you will learn how to use your daily life as a tool to communication practice and how to do that practice. You will become confident knowing you are making the difference you want to make. And you will hear success stories of parents who have navigated these struggles already. We'll do this all while focusing on building deep, meaningful connection and confidence in your kiddo. So grab a cup of coffee along with a notebook and pen. It's time to speak in the way your child's brain understands. And that is the language of play. Welcome back, listeners. It's always lovely to come back and to know that you are here. I shall get rolling on this episode with first starting with a review of the podcasting charts. It's always so much fun to go in and see who is listening. And this time, today, the day that I am recording this, the language of play hit the top podcast charts in 23 countries. The top 4 I'll give you, and that would be Oman, Russia, Saudi Arabia, and India. So thank you to you 4 and then so many more for listening to the language of play as we support your families and your children's growth in communication and connection. This must mean you're sharing the podcast, and I love that you do. Thank you. Next, I want to give a big thank you to our sponsors. Feeling stuck? Burned out? Lost your spark? The Center for Play and Exploration helps you flip that script, because joy isn't just for kids. Parents, you can get your spontaneity back, one playful thought at a time. Use the link in the notes and mention the language of play and score 20% off. And hey, if you need an inspiring speaker, just ask for Dave. He does great. Thank you to the Center for Play and Exploration. Next, Lightning Admin VA. Nap time is precious, but you're spending it answering emails or fixing tech issues. It's not really a break. Cindy at lightningadminva.com can help. She's a virtual assistant who takes care of the behind-the-scenes business tasks so you can use that time for the moments that really matter. Lightning Admin VA, thank you very much for sponsoring the language of play. And listeners, who doesn't like to have a free gift? Now, in the show notes, you will find a link to 5 ways to get your kids to listen better. This is an email sequence that is going to really help you have an understanding of some behaviors you can take as a parent that's going to change the way your kids interact with you. It was based on my learning working with kiddos with ADHD. But what I found was that works for those kiddos works for all people. So go get your valuable gift there in the show notes, titled 5 Ways to Get Kids to Listen Better. All right, now we are on to the meat of this episode, and we shall begin listening to this pre-recorded episode with Kristina and Herb Heagh-Avritt. Kristina and Herbert met in college and soon became inseparable. Kristina followed her passion into teaching, and Herb followed his into business and into entrepreneurship. After 33 years of marriage and raising 2 sons, they have combined their experience, passion, and knowledge to found Vibrant Family Education and the Bringing Education Home podcast, helping parents strengthen relationships by reimagining the education of their children and guiding them along the way to create happy, healthy, and successful children for better communities and a better world. I love that bio. That's so sweet. So tell me, before we begin, I want to just welcome you, and I'd like you to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate the opportunity to be here. And yeah, our bio tells a lot. We have been married for quite a while, and we've been through our forges, right? Our fires, our ups and downs and all around. And we've raised 2 boys, and one of our boys is on the autism spectrum. So we went through that special needs kind of schooling education process as well, and how to support ourselves and him through all of that education. And then near the end of my teaching career, it's just like, it's time for me to step out of the classroom and help parents by being a support on the outside instead of the inside of the school system. So I walked away from my teaching career to do that, support parents in finding great fit education for their children.
How long did you teach in the classroom, and what grade were you in?
I taught for 27 years, and I was the 2nd and 3rd grade the most.
Yes, Herb.
And I would like to say that you can hear the teacher coming out in her. So I when she steps in that mode, I call her Mrs. Heagh-Avritt because she goes into teacher mode. It was a little more dramatic of an exit than that. The school system that we were in wasn't really listening. She wasn't able to help, or their parents. The administration actually told her to stop talking to the parents. So yeah,
That's surprising. That's
yes.
Really not cool.
Right. So in our school system where we were at, it was a little more difficult. And so for her health and our health and the health of our family, it's like we needed to step away from that situation. So we're not here really to try and tell people that schools are bad, because some are, some aren't. It's really an individualized. If you happen to be in a school system that you don't agree with and you can't get the help that you need, that's when it's really time to start looking outside the box. If your school is really working for you, then just getting a little help with navigating is really what you need, not necessarily the big step. So there's all sorts of individualized ways to get at this.
Sure. It's like everything, isn't it? There's a lot of opportunities. There's a lot of differences from one person to the next. There's differences from one school to the next, strengths and weaknesses in everything.
Yes.
So yeah, I appreciate hearing that, because I think that's so true. And my experience, as you guys know, has been quite positive in the public schools. I have worked with great administrators and great teachers myself. So it's hard for me to think negatively about the public schools, though I do know there's lots of stories like that. And I've seen and heard, very heartfelt stories too. And I know that's true also.
Oh yeah. So when Kristina first started teaching, at the end of the year, she would cry because her children were leaving. She was losing her class.
Yeah.
And then the last several years, it was like crying throughout the year because she couldn't reach the children. She couldn't reach the parents. Again, it was our school system. It was what was happening where we were. And so it was rough for us.
I bet. You say in your work that parents are the most effective teachers. And I agree with this too. Tell us what you mean when you say that parents are the most effective teachers.
What I mean by that is that you teach your children from the minute you bring them home, right? You know them intimately. You know their sleep schedules. You know their anxieties, their stresses. You know the ins and outs of them, and because of that, you can give an insight into their education that nobody else can. And with that in mind, you are their best teacher because you can help your teachers either guide them to how to best address your children or work with your children, or you yourself can find insights and know what will work better for them than less of other people. And with that in mind, thinking that, if you have a choice, if you need a different kind of education because something's not working for your child, you can do it because you can find the support and your child, and you can make that be a great fit.
And also, it's like brain science. Children for the first 5 years are sponges. They absorb what they see. And so they are watching the parents, and they are an amalgamation of the parents in the way the parents react. A really great quote that I heard a while ago, I don't remember who says it, but children are born looking like their parents and they die looking like their decisions. So
I'm going to quote that. Children are born looking like their parents and die looking like their decisions.
Well, I'm not sure looking is the right word, but that's the theme of the quote. And so for the first 5 years, it's like they're watching you, they're absorbing you, they're listening to how you talk, they're watching how you react to different stimuli. And because that's how I have to be, because that's the way the brains work. So at 3 is when they start learning reasoning, and that changes a little bit, but still they're watching you and they're learning. There's even songs that's like, I've been watching you, Dad, ain't that cool? I want to be just like you. So there's all sorts of songs like that about kids wanting to be like dads, learning, paying attention. So you are your child's first teacher, whether you know it, whether you anticipate it, whether you plan it, that's you. For 5 or 6 years. And so to think that you're not teaching your children or you're not capable, maybe on some of the intricate educational topics, but no, you're teaching your kids every day of your life.
Yes. And I'm glad you bring that up. Now, a lot of times parents, because we don't always know what we are teaching when we are teaching them, we can sometimes teach things that we don't intend to teach. Our kids learn things in ways that we didn't expect that they were learning. We knew what we meant, but it's not how they perceived it with the way their brain is developed so far. So we know that. And parents are often confused, like, what did I do? Both of you said, you want parents to know they can. I want to lean into that phrase, you can, because I also have that as part of what I teach too. People need to understand that they can. Now, when you say you can, what do you have in your mind?
I'll go for this first.
Okay.
Most people, when they think about homeschooling and they haven't experienced it or been with somebody yet, they think that they have to replicate the school system at home. They think that they have to have the children sitting at a desk or in front of a computer for 6 or 8 hours a day working on homework. And so when people think, oh, I have to be the teacher, that's what they think, that I'm going to have to spend that much time and all of that. When really, once you get the fundamentals and the foundations in the children started, then you're more of a monitor than a teacher, because so much of the education and the actual curriculum can be done online, can be done in pods. So you don't have to be the actual main educator for your child. You just have to, earlier, there is a lot more work earlier because younger kids take more attention. But as they grow, it's like you become the monitor. And if you've done it properly, and that's not even the right term.
Loose word.
If you,
it's kind of a scary word, isn't it?
To the point where they enjoy learning. So instead of it being a school where you're teaching them, you get them to the point where they want to learn.
They love learning.
By following their passion, by getting them to understand reading and making it easy for them so that they can grab knowledge from anywhere. Once it's fun for them, then you don't have to teach them. A lot of times you have to slow them down because they're just coming at you with so much. So it's a really interesting thing to go from children not liking to go to school to, it's like, hey, slow down. we gotta do life too, instead of just all of this fun learning stuff.
And we said, what do I think about when I say that? Lots of times, we talk a lot about the 3 myths of homeschooling, and one of those is that our system is set up and our teachers our society is set up is that you can't be your child's teacher. They have to go to public school, or they have to get education from a qualified college taught teacher kind of thing. And what we really want parents to really think about is that, remember that because you have already been teaching and you already have strengths, you also can be their teacher. You don't have to abdicate that to the school system, especially if there's an issue. So lots of times a parent, especially one with special needs, will go into the school and say, okay, what do I do with my kiddo? Because I don't understand and I don't know how to do this. And they forget how much they really know about their child, kind of like I was saying before. And they don't stand up for themselves, or they don't stand up for their child. Now, so thinking about that, they can be their child's teacher and they should be completely involved with all of that. And then, of course, making the education fun, right? Whenever you can be your child's teacher, it's like, wow, we can do projects together on the weekend, on after school, all those kinds of things that bring in education along with the fun that really develop the family into that cohesive unit that we really want families.
So the school doesn't like to lose their children either.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. The school will want to retain them. So now the first myth, you said there were 3 myths. The first myth I have is the idea that parents think they're not qualified. What was your second myth?
The second myth is that they think that they don't have enough time, that they can't do the education at home. And a lot of that has to do with that original thing that Herb was talking about, that they think they have to pick up school and drop it into their living room, that they think they have to replicate what happens at the school building in their home to be educating at home, to be homeschooling. And so when we think about that and we start showing them the flexibility and how a lot of the learning comes through life experiences. I mean, you absolutely have to have the academics, the reading, writing, the math, etc. But then so much more of it comes in through the learning activities of the day, the house cleaning, the reading of stories for fun, for doing exploration, for going on field trips, all those good different things that homeschool families do, that it doesn't take as much time as you think it does. And so that shouldn't be a barrier. And some families are like, but we also work full time, right? And it's like, we also help them think about flexibility along that way, because again, you're not necessarily following the school district or the school
doesn't have
hours.
To be 7 to 3.
It can be evenings, weekends, etc.
Yeah. Right. And this whole idea of having it filter into the days, this is one of the things that I love also, because I teach that also, that you don't need to add something to your day necessarily, because if you're going to go shopping and that it is a school day, in quotes here, you can take the map and they can do geography. You can talk about the layout of the store and they can do architecture. You can talk about math and they can add the prices. You can bring a calculator along and they can learn a little about tech or their phones or whatever. You can have them look up online what you need to buy and get prices. You can have them call on a telephone and talk to a human being. You can use your normal daily living for matching all of the things that would be learned in the school. And in the school, we need to do it more vicariously. We're looking at a book and we're talking about this issue of going to the store, and then it's a story problem. So you get into your imagination about going to the store. But in homeschooling, you do the same story problem and then you live it out. Exactly. Or vice versa. You live it out and then talk about it. Either way. Yeah, I totally agree with this, because even when we teach speech sounds and language skills, this is exactly what I mean too when I say we can take what you normally do and have all of the practices weave into your real living. And if somebody has in mind, I'm going to talk math, then you will have the math areas pop up in your awareness because you have intended it. Yes.
Here's a little weird unintended consequence too. It goes back to that I'm not qualified. So I was bad in math. It's not me. I was bad in math at school. I was bad in reading at school. How can I teach reading if I was bad at it myself?
Those self-limiting thoughts. Yes.
So my thought with that is, okay, there are times where that one thing that you miss, that one little bit, will fill in that gap, and suddenly it becomes easier for you too. So as you're working with your children, there's so much that you're learning at the same time that it's a wonderful growth process for the parents as well as the children.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to go back to your 3 keys, or myths, I should say. You gave me 2. What was the third?
The third one is that my child will be the weird one. They won't be socialized appropriately. And that is a myth that, we hear from every single homeschool family we talk to. They're like, oh my gosh, every time we say that we are homeschooling our child, that's like the first question. Well, aren't you worried about their socialization? And, you know, if you are a parent that have already seriously considered homeschooling and you're looking for help and support, like our company or other pods or other community members, et cetera, to help you homeschool, you're not going to let that socialization fall through the cracks, right? It will just look different. And in many times, especially for kiddos who aren't fitting in wherever they're currently being educated, it might be a better socialization. Maybe they're a quieter child that works better with older children and adults. Well, guess what? That's what they're going to be working with and socializing with, because you're going to take them out to the community and you're going to work at the food bank or help at the library or do those different things that really take them out and get them out in the community and have them work with lots of different levels. But also it's like, you know, it's not going to be an issue. And unfortunately, many times our homeschooling children are actually a little bit more socialized right now because they are in a confident speaking space, right? It's something that all parents need to work on dramatically, no matter where your child's being educated, is getting them to be confident in lots of different situations, not just letting one person take charge of that.
And so many parents are like, oh, my kid has to be in school so they can hang out with children their own age. A whole bunch of 7-year-olds. It's like, but they all have the same level of not knowing stuff. And they all know the same kind of stuff. When I grew up in a really small town out in the middle of the nowhere in the 70s and 80s. We played with whoever we could get. I played with the older kids. I played with the younger kids. There wasn't this having to be in the same age group. And so that expansion, and what happens also is you start being in cooperative environments instead of competitive. Let's say your child really likes music, wants to play music, goes to school, goes to music class, is sitting in a class with 30 kids, 20 of whom who don't want to be there and are poking and playing and not really focusing on the music so much. Now you take that kid out of school, you get them into a music program. They're there with kids of a whole bunch of different ages. They're all there because they want to be there. They're working in a cooperative way with lots of different ages and environments. The older people can help the younger people, and so the interactions are so much more life oriented. Yeah. So if an adult goes and talks with a homeschool child, at most ages will be able to have a conversation with an adult. I've seen it in entrepreneur meetings where they have homeschooled their children. These little kids come into this room full of adults and run around and start talking to everybody. Whereas the kids in school are used to only talking to kids their own age. They are taught to sit still and be quiet. And then they get in crowds of adults and they don't necessarily interact. You try and talk with them and there's like small answers, not conversations. So there is a difference in the introduction to a greater community by schooling at home and then consciously working on the socialization.
Yeah. And I think that that's very much the opportunity. And you nailed it on the head when you said you consciously need to choose it. And when a person consciously chooses it, there are endless opportunities for advancement in all ages. And yes, I totally agree too with what you're saying. It's kind of a not real environment when you grow up and you are in a pod of kids all your age and you move as a group all at your own age. It's very much not real, because as soon as school's done, you're in a multi-age. And when you are outside of school, you are in a multi-age, unless parents don't have the conscious awareness to bring their kids out. And, you know, like what you had said too, Kristina, I have seen some of those kids that were not socialized, and I have seen beautifully socialized kids in homeschooling. Just like everything we're talking about, there's nothing that's 100% when you're working with humans.
Yes, because there's a lot of homeschoolers, and this is where the socialization myths came in, because they pulled their kids out of school and then just kind of unschooled or did not a lot. And so very, very little in socialization. So again, right. A lot of the success of your children depends on your investment in them, how much time you're spending with them, how much quality time. It's not just like watching TV with them, but how much time are you putting into your children? It's like that. Yeah. They're the most important thing. Yeah. You only have them for 18 years, really. And then hopefully they'll be there for the rest of your life. So you're not there to be friends. You're there to prepare them for their next 80 years when they don't have you.
Well said. Well said. I once heard, we're not raising kids, we're raising adults. And I remember the first time that I heard that, it was like a light bulb went on in my head. I thought, oh my gosh, that's right. I don't need to worry about having a good kid or bad kid today. It's not about that. It's about the long range. I am raising an adult. So therefore, what do we need to learn in this moment so that we can move on to our adulthood and have the independence and cooperation and responsibility and all the things that we need?
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that whole, there are brain studies. There are changes that happens in the brain all the way up, well, for the rest of your life. The last major one happens at 25. And there are some very seemingly incorrigible kids that once they hit that age of 25 and that last brain, then they settle down and then they can lead a productive life. Some can do it way earlier, some later. You just have to get them to that point safely to where they can take over their life. Sometimes some kids, they're so old soul that it can be at like 12 and 13. It's like they start raising you when they're teenagers. And sometimes it has to be a lot later because of just the way their brains work. So it's so individualized and it's just being there.
Which is one of the glories of having a family that does homeschooling too. It can be highly individualized and you can alter to meet the needs of that child in that setting.
And I just want to jump back to that quote that you said, we're not raising kids, we're raising adults, but that doesn't mean you treat your child like an adult.
Oh, thank you for saying that. That is so true.
Play. They have to have their time to grow and expand and learn to become that adult, but they can't be treated like an adult from very, very little, right? You still have to play and encourage them and everything.
Right. We have to grow them into the place where they are raised into an adult. So the raising process does include a lot of play, a lot of imagination, creativity, discovery, exploration, all the things.
All the things.
Yes.
Yeah. The more they play, the more they learn. So children who don't play at an early age have learning difficulties. There's so many interesting things about playing and how to use your hands, which is some of the reasons why these devices where the kids are just doing this instead of this are creating learning difficulties in some children.
Right. So for those of us that are not on a video, I'm going to describe what Herb just did. He did the thumbs for the texting versus waving his arms, which meant the 3D world. Is that right?
Yes. Playing with throwing rocks, playing with Legos, doing manipulatives.
When I talk with parents about reading, I remind them that you are teaching them how to read from the first time that they're out in the park exploring, because they're using their eyes to look at the discrepancies, the colors of the leaves, the depth of the play structure, all those different things. Those are all pre-reading skills. Every time your child is moving their hands and pointing and poking and doing all that kind of stuff, again, those are pre-reading body skills that they need to be able to read. So really, you're helping them read by getting them out and being active with them when they're little.
Yeah, playing with their hands helps them read because moving their hands changes the way their eyes move. So sounds weird. Brain science, moving your hands.
We are one creature. We are one connected creature, aren't we?
Yeah.
And what we do with our hands affects our eyes, and all of it is affecting brain and your heart and your stomach lining and everything you want to talk about. All of you is connected. And so everything we do affects something else in some way. Now, this has been a fabulous interview. Now, before you go, I want to call attention to, we're just talking about play just now here at the end, and this is the language of play. So when you think about play, tell parents what you mean when you say play with your kids all the time.
Play can actually be some of those serious discussions that you have with your child, and then you turn out laughing because you both said something silly as you're talking about that serious discussion. Play is when you're making that super strong connection and you're getting those great big smiles and that heartfelt, oh wow, I love spending time with you. It doesn't have to be something like Legos. Play can actually be in the grocery store, kind of like we were describing, like, oh, can you go find this for me? Can you go find that for me? You can play a game of kind of tag around around the store, by finding things in the store. It can be just woven throughout. So play are those intimate connections that you make with your child.
Nicely
Yeah,
said.
and
Herb?
it kind of like Mary Poppins, a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. If you get this right, you can start turning chores into play. You can start turning mealtime into play. You can start turning so much of what you do into an enjoyable activity where you're spending fun time with your kids, but also learning, because children learn through play. So if you make, it's like, okay, time to cook dinner. How can we do this in a fun way so my children learn? Because there's math, there's chemistry, there's colors, there's taste, there's all sorts of stuff that go into cooking with learning opportunities there. And how can we make it fun for the children? Get them messy, get them dirty, get them playing, and then they will grow into just absolutely loving everything they do.
Very cool. Very, very cool. Love it. Thank you for being with me today on the language of play. It's been a delight.
Thank you for having us here. It's been a pleasure.
Hey parents, I hope you found this episode helpful. If so, would you please take 30 seconds and share it with a friend who also lives or works with children? I would really appreciate it if you would leave a quick review for the show on Apple Podcasts. I read every review, and it lights me up to know that this show is making a difference. Then come join my Facebook community, where you'll meet other parents who are dedicated to helping their children grow too. You'll find the link in the show notes. Thank you for joining me. Now it's time to go. Let's pop our kiddos in the strollers and go look around outdoors and see what we have to talk about.